Who had the best peak in Call of Duty esports history? That's what we're going to be doing today. Apparently, there is this quiz, Best COD Primes. It was a post on Zoo Mafia's subreddit. Zuma did this on stream yesterday, and I had someone comment on my video. Shout out to good_comms that said, need a video on the COD Pros Prime versus bracket that Zuma pulled out on stream today. So we're going to go through this bracket, and I'm going to give you my... I don't really know exactly how this works. All right, let's hop into this. I moved my camera down to the bottom middle, so I'm not blocking either player's pictures. But let's do this. Round of 64, kicking off with Infinite Warfare Octane versus Clayster from BO2. Both of these guys, I mean, both of these were incredible. I'm going to go IW Octane. I just think IW is a higher peak game in general. And Octane was obviously one of the best players at the game. Then we have BO4 Priesta versus MW2 Kismet. This is also another tough one. Priesta was great at BO4. Kids was also, I mean, Kids was him, especially on land at MW2. Maybe this is recency bias, but I'm going to go MW2 Kids. I think Kids was really, really great in Modern Warfare 2. But then we have, wow, wait, this one's insane. World War II Kenny versus Cold War Simp. This was Kenny's probably best game, maybe second best game. I'm going Cold War Simp, though. Cold War Simp was one of the best players I feel like we've seen. World War II Tej versus Ghost Aches. These were two of probably the top 5-ish players in each of their respective games. I'm going to give it to the OG. I'm going to give it to Aches, though. That one's definitely close. And also, don't take this too seriously. This is just for fun. If you don't agree, you know, it is what it is. It's not that big a deal if we don't agree on every single one. Then we got BO2 Parasite versus BO3 Bance. I'm going to go BO3 Bance. I'm definitely going to lean towards advanced movement games if they're going up against some of the earlier games because it's just a higher peak in those games already. Then we got IW John versus Vanguard Pred. I'm going to go Vanguard Pred. Pred was probably a top 3 player in Vanguard. I don't think John was top 3 in IW. I'm going to lean the way of Pred here. Then we have World War II Zuma versus MW Illy. Illy was great, but I mean, World War II Zuma was really, really good. BO1 JCap versus Cold War Celium. This is an insane comparison, right? We're looking at a decade in between each of these games. I mean, JCap was one of the best at BO1, just in terms of how far the competition came, how great Celium was. I mean, Cold War wasn't, you know, screw it. We're going OG. We're going OG. Celium was obviously better at other games. I don't think Cold War was nearly Celium's best game. So for that reason, I'm sure we're gonna see Cell again in this list, or at least I think we will. I'm going Cell. MW Awakening versus Vanguard Shotzi. I'm going Modern Warfare Awakening. If you guys remember, people literally used to think this guy was hacking. I mean, it was an online league, but Crim6 used to call him out for hacking all the time. I'm going Modern Warfare Awakening. Dude, okay, this is our best matchup yet. We got Advanced Warfare Zuma versus Infinite Warfare Formal. Zuma's probably best game, maybe second best game versus Formal's best game. I mean, this one's is obviously really close. I definitely do think it's going to be IW Formal, though. I mean, possibly the highest peak we've ever seen. Then we got IW Gunless, another really good one, but I'm going AW Scump. One of the best seasons maybe of all time we've ever seen. Cold War Insight versus World War II Gunless. This is definitely a tough one. Cold War Insight might have been his best year as he came in with a rookie. I'm gonna give it to Gunless, though. Then we come into BO2 Aches versus Modern Warfare Envoy. Both of these players were top 5 probably players in their respective games. I'm going Aches, though. I'll give it to the OG again. I'll give it to the OG in this one. Cold War ASIM, I mean, MW2 Hydra all day, every day, right? One of the best players we've probably seen. Then we got Cold War Kleenex versus MW2 Skies. Two more recent years. I'm going to go Skies. I think Skies was really, really great last year. I don't really remember Kleenex being like a top 5 player in Cold War. I'm kind of surprised that was on there. But this one, we got Cold War Cammy versus Vanguard Celium. Now, Celium did win the MVP in Vanguard. I mean, Cold War Cammy was really, really great, but I got to give it to the guy who won the MVP in that year, and I'm going for Celium. Then we got another advanced movement game battle. We got Advanced Warfare Hook, who was probably a top 3 SMG in that game, right behind Scump and Zuma, in my opinion. And then we got BO3 Apathy, who was one of the best players in the game. I'm giving it to BO3 App. This is going to get, we're only in the round of 64. This is going to get so much harder as we get deeper into this bracket. BO4 Simp versus MW Shotzi. Dude, wow, this is tough. Okay, this one might actually be the hardest one yet. We're looking at BO4 Simp, who was arguably the best player in that game. Obviously, he didn't play the entire season. And then we got MW Shotzi, who was the best player in that game and won the MVP. Both of these games had skill gaps with the movements and stuff like that. I mean, a much higher TTK game, though, in BO4, making it probably a harder title. Dude, this one is really, really, really tough. You know what? No disrespect to Shotzi. I'm going Simp. I'm going Simp. It was a harder game, and he was probably the best at it, so I'm going Simp. BO2 Crim versus Ghost Karma. Now we're going way back. Two of the GOATs here. I'm going to give it to Karma. That one's definitely close. Those guys were both top probably 3 players in each of those games. But I'm going to go with Karma for that one. Then we got Ghost Crim versus World War II Slack. Slack was good at World War II. He was definitely good at World War II, but I think Ghost Crim was one of the best players of that year, and this probably was Crim's best game. I'm going to go Ghost Crim here. Then we got MW Hook versus BO3 John. I'm going BO3 John. I don't think there's much to say there. Cold War Abizi versus BO3 Slasher. Abizi, one of the best one of the best players in Cold War. Slasher, one of the best players in BO3. Both of them won champs this year. I'm going to give it to Slasher. I'm going to give it to Slasher. Advanced movement game, harder title. I'm giving it to him. Then we got IW Classic, BO4 Dashy. I'm going to go Dashy. Going to go Big Brucey on that one. Dude, some of these are really, really tough. Cold War Standy versus BO4 Ken. Standy had a great rookie season in Cold War, but I'm going to go Kenny for sure. I love that picture, by the way. This one is definitely a tough one. IW Arcides versus BO4 Temp. Not really players that I think about often when I think about best COD primes. This one's definitely interesting. I'm gonna give it to Temp. You could go either way on that one, I think. To be honest, I don't even really remember much about those players in that game. Then we got Vanguard Sib versus AW Formal. Sib was great in Vanguard, but I don't even know if he was really like a top 7, top 10 player in that game off the top of my head. I'm going Formal. Then we got MW2 Abizi, runner-up for MVP versus AW Clayster. This one is definitely... Ooh, this one's definitely tough. Dude, this one's really, really difficult because Clay won champs. He won MVP at champs. Abizi, though, was so good at MW2, bro. He was really, really good at MW2. I'm gonna give it to Clay, though. Champs MVP, I'll give it to Clayster. Then we got Vanguard Dashy versus IW0. Vanguard Dashy was runner-up to MVP that year. I mean, Zero had an incredible season in IW on Splice. I'm gonna put some respect on Zero's name. Let's go Trey Zero for that one. That one's definitely close. You could have went Dashy there. World War II Methods versus World War II Slasher. Or we got a little World War II matchup. I'm gonna go Slasher. I'm gonna go Austin Litigo, and I'm gonna give it to Slasher on that one. Then you got AW Attach, youngest player to ever win champ. Shout out Attach versus MW Priesta. I'm gonna go Attach. I'm gonna go Attach. That one's close too, I think. Then we got, oh, this is a good one. BO4 Octane versus MW2 Scrap. This one's tough, man. These guys were probably both, what, top 3, at least top 5 in this respective game that we're talking about here. Dude, this one's hard. Scrap was great at MW2. Octane was great at Black Ops 4. I'm giving it to Octane. Higher skill gap game. I'm going to give it to the Octane there. Then we got BO2 Teep versus BO3 Scump. Teep was great at BO2. Obviously, a very dominant team, that complexity team. I'm going to give it to BO3 Scump, though. And now we're into the round of 32. So now it's going to get even more difficult. BO3 Slasher versus MW Awakening. I'll give it to Slasher on that one. Then we get MW2 Hydra versus BO3 Scump. Oh, Lord. Listen, you might be able to call me faded on this one. I'm going to give it to Hydra. This one's really close. Obviously, Black Ops 3 was a harder game, but I think, you know, Scump's better game was AW, and that one's still in here. So for that reason, we'll keep it a little bit different. We'll give it to Hydra, because I'm sure AW Scump is going to go quite the ways in this bracket. Then we got BO4 Dashy versus AW Formal. It's kind of the same philosophy here. I think IW is Formal's better game, and since that one's still in the bracket, we'll give it to BO4 Dashy. And speaking of IW Formal, going up against IW Octane, but we're going to be giving it to Formy here for sure. MW2 Kids versus Vanguard Cell. We'll give it to Vanguard Cellium, MVP in that game. Ghost Karma versus AW Scump. Sorry, DB3, but it's going to go to Scumpy. Then we got BO3 John versus World War II Zuma. This one definitely could be up for debate, but I'm going to give it to the champs MVP of that year and give it to BO3 John. Then we got BO3 Bance versus BO4 Octane. BO3 Bance was great, don't get me wrong, but we're going BO4 Octane on this one. He was one of the best players in the game for sure. Advanced Warfare Attach versus BO3 App. I'm going to give it to Apathy. Zero versus Temp. I'm going to give it to Zero. I'm going to give it to Zero on that one. Then we got Aches versus Aches. This is a fun matchup. This one's definitely fun. I mean, he was great at both of these games. You could kind of go with either. I'll give it to Ghost Aches, though. I will give it to Ghost Aches. I mean, they won World Championship that year, so I'll give it to him the edge there for that reason. MW2 Skies versus World War II Slasher. I'm gonna go Slasher on that one. Dude, this is actually really fun. BO1 JCap versus World War II Gunless. JCap was one of the best players in BO1, but the competition was much harder in World War II. We're going to go Gunless on that one. Then we have Vanguard Pred versus Cold War Simp. I mean, this isn't really, I don't think this one's a debate. I mean, Pred was great, but it's Cold War Simp for sure. And we got BO4 Simp versus Ghost Crim. This might be one of the hardest ones we've come up to yet. Ghost Crim was probably one of the best in the game. BO4 Simp was obviously one of the best in the game. I do think this one's difficult, and I think you could kind of lean either way, but I'm going to give it to Simp. Again, harder game, higher skill gap. Then we got BO4 Ken versus AW Clay. I'm going to go Clayster. I'm going to go Clayster on this one. I'll give it to the 3-ring GOAT. And now we're into the round of 16. AW Scum versus BO4 Dashy, man. This is a good one. This is a really, really good one. I'm going Scump, though. I'm going Scump. Sorry, Big Brucey, but I'm going Scump there. Cold War Simp versus BO3 Slasher. Give me Cold War Simp. Vanguard Celium versus MW2 Hydra. Now it gets interesting. This one gets interesting. You got both of these players who won the MVP award in their respective seasons. This was back-to-back years, too. I'm going Hydra. I think I'm going to go Hydra. He was just more... His team was obviously more dominant this season. They won 3 events, one of those being champs. Hydra also on an SMG role. I'm going to go Hydra. I'm going to give him the nod there. World War II Slasher versus IW0. Once again, I'm going to give it to Trey, man. I'm going to give it to Trey. Trey was really good at IW. He was really, really good. I mean, you saw him with his awards and in the picture holding them both up. Trey was great at that game. BO4 Octane versus World War II Gunless is another fire matchup, but I'm going to give it to Sam LaRue. Then we come into BO3 John versus BO3 App. I mean, team together, won champs together, but I'm going to give it to the guy who did end up winning the MVP in their champs win, and it's going to be John. And then we come into BO4 Simp versus AW Clay. I mean, Clay won champs with this guy right here in the picture, and it's going to be Simp. Simp had 2 of the highest primes we've ever seen, bro. I think he still has 2 of them in this thing. IW Formal over Ghost Ache. Sorry, Patty P. Now we get to the round of 8, the Elite 8 for my March Madness folks out there. IW0 versus BO4 Octane. 2 guys that won events, 2 guys that won MVPs. But I am going to go with Sam LaRue. This is an interesting exercise because I never really thought about, like, who had the best primes. I mean, like, I kind of had an idea of who it was, obviously. But it gets really interesting now with MW2 Hydra and BO3 John. Dude, both of these guys were incredible. Both of them won, you know, MVPs. Both of them won champs this year. Dude, this one is tough. Hydra was incredible last year, bro. Hydra was really, really, really good last year. I'm going to give it to Hydra. I misclicked. I'm going to give it to Hydra. That one's close, though. I think you could go either way there. Then we get the Simp matchup. I was wondering if we were going to get this because I knew both of these are still in here. Which Simp year was better? Was it BO4 Simp or was it Cold War Simp? You guys let me know in the comments which of these 2 you think is better, which game was better for Simp. Dude, this one is really, really tough. I mean, they're very different games, right? One was 5v5, one was 4v4. Obviously, won champs in both. We saw him play an entire Cold War season versus not an entire BO4 season, but I mean, there were more events anyway back in BO4. Dude, this one is really, really, really hard. I am going to... I'm gonna lean the way of BO4 Simp. I'm gonna lean the way of BO4 Simp, but I think you could go either way. Oh, and then this is one I was dreading, man. This is one I was dreading. AW Scump versus IW Formal. See, now this is where I think a little bit of the nuance comes into it, and I wish maybe I had a better idea of what I should be going off of. If we're looking at a whole season, right, like, this person's prime was Advanced Warfare Scump, let's say IW Formal. The whole season, Scump was better the entire season in AW than Formal was in IW for a whole season. But Formal's peak in IW was better than Scump's peak in AW, in my opinion. I think IW Formal is probably the highest peak we've ever seen in COD, whereas AW Scump is maybe the best season we've seen in COD. Yeah, this one's really, really, really tough. And I think, like I said, it depends on what you're kind of looking at this as. But I think it's also for the fact that they won champs this year, I'm going to give it to IW Formal. Probably one of the best players we've ever seen. Then we get to the final 4 here. BO4 Simp versus IW Formal. I'm going to give it to Formal here. We got Octane versus Hydra. This is actually interesting. These guys were both really, really great at both of their respective games. But I'm going to give it to Hydra because, like I said, he won champs. I'll give it to the guy who won champs. And then our final matchup is going to be MW2 Hydra versus Infinite Warfare Formal, and it's going to be IW Formal for me. I win XP, apparently. Let's go. But this is what I'm going to go with, man. I'm giving it to IW Formal in the finals to be the best prime of all time in COD. Let me know what you guys think. I'm going to put the link to this in the description if you want to play. You can play it, see what you end up getting. The rounds will be different each time, so you could have a totally different final. You could have Formal versus Scump. You could have, you know, SIP versus OCT. Like, it could be a totally different one. So I left the link in the description for you. Play it. Let me know who you have as your winner in your finals matchup. I'm definitely interested to see. If you want to see more content, you have other ideas for quizzes, things like this you think I should play, definitely let me know in the comments. And I'll definitely be willing to play some of those on stream or as videos like this one. And with all that being said, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.